paid, she turned off the water, so it wouldn't keep on that way. But then the meter reader came just a few days after we got home, and she said that we used 22,200 gallons of water. Our normal is anywhere from 100 to 500, but obviously that was very surprising. And of course, when we got our utility bill, it was over $1,000 for water. Now, she apparently must have requested a credit for us, and there was a credit shown on the invoice of about, I think it was about 60%. So there is a credit. I'm just asking if it's be some way of doing a little bit more. I mean, we have never requested one before. I honestly can't imagine what could have happened that just out of the blue, with nobody living in the house, nobody there, that it would just happen like that. I thought possibly, they had been cleaning out the hydrants or something, of which we have in the front of our house, but apparently that wasn't done either. So I don't know if there could have been a spike, but in any case, we had quite a mess. We're still in the process of trying to clean up, and insurance will cover quite a bit, but not all of it. So I guess I'm just asking if there's any way you can go a little more. Instead of 60, you can go 70 or 80%. That's what we're asking. I guess that's about it. Any questions of me?
Did you turn the water bill into your insurance?
I did discuss it with them, and they said that they would cover some of it. However, for some reason, they wouldn't cover the whole difference between what we normally would pay and, what the bill came out to. For water, it was roughly, I guess after the credit, it was probably around $400, maybe a little over. The city, of course, with the sewer was over $1,400. I guess the sewer is based on how much water usage there is. I did get notified today that they would give a partial credit on that as well. I have to talk to the city a little bit more because I think that I did a little check, and our floor drains are actually kind of plugged up. So I don't think there's any way that most of that water went down through the sewer. Our sump pump has a Grand Canyon where it exits, so I think most of it went out there, but that's not for the commission here to worry about. That's with the city that I have to discuss it.
Okay, thank you. We can't make any decisions right now, but we heard you.
You guys think it over, and like I say, if you can do a little more, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
And we can research it more, Commissioner Hart, and advise within our current policies.
Okay. Okay, next item in the meeting will be item number 5, the consent agenda. Item 5A, approve invoices greater than 1,000 and approve the bills and ACH transfers dated May 20th through June 23rd, 2023. Item 5B, approve the payroll paid and overtime report for the June 1st and June 15th, 2023 pay dates. Item 5C, adopt resolution 14-23 ratifying application with the Minnesota Management and Budget Office for the purpose of the Hibbing water infrastructure in the amount of $26 million. Okay, what would be the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
Okay. Support? We have a motion by Commissioner, I'm just drawing blanks today, I'm sorry. Commissioner Garrity, support by Commissioner Andrea to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item will be item 6A. Which is to review and approve the interim May 2023 Financials, Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. We're joined by Bethany Ryers from Baker Tilly. We are kind of working with both the Zoom, where she'll be able to appear, and also my telephone for audio if necessary. And I'll just report quickly that these are the year-to-date financials through the month of May. Please consider them as interim. They do reflect some of the audit adjustments that Bethany could touch on as being booked in the month of May. So the variance with budget is about $300,000 less than budgeted, in part due to some of the impact of those audit entries, and also lower than budgeted revenues for the month, for the year period ending May 31st. And then going through the audit discussion, which will be item 6B coming up next, we will be publishing a more thoroughly reviewed first half of 2023 financials following a proper month-end closing process at the end of the month of June for consideration in the next month. So please consider these as interim, and happy to answer any questions about the maze and then move on to the audit.
Well, at this point, you know, based on, this is where they say we are, but they're still revising things and just finishing the audit last week. So I'm not sure that there's any benefit to go through anything that, it's down 300,000 from the yearly estimate, but is it gonna come back at this point? It should, but unless there's something that they see that I don't see, you know, that I think we just accept what they presented and analyze it ourselves. And there's too many numbers to go through on a television like this, you know, to do any line items. And I appreciate she's here, but it's not a benefit. I just make a motion that we accept it and place it on file, full well knowing there's going to be adjustments to it. You know, that's, and we'll get a major adjustment all brought up to date by June, so.
I would second his motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Garrity, support by Commissioner Bayless to accept the interim financials with the understanding they are going to change. So, all those in favor? Or any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6B, review and approve the 2022 audited financials. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. With that in mind, I'd also like to introduce Bethany, just to present an overview of the audit, and just noting that we will have our auditors at upcoming commission meeting to thoroughly discuss the report. Bethany.
First of all, I just want to confirm, Luke, that you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you. Thanks for having me today. First, I wanted to talk just an overview about the audit. I'm an auditor by nature, so I know how much work goes into the audit, how much work Jeff and Bonnie put into the audit. And I also know that as much work as they do, and I know they did a lot of work here, the folks at the utility probably worked twice as many hours, not only to prepare for the audit, but assist myself and Russ with those end of the year reconciliations and requests to compile information into the financial statements, as well as answering questions from the auditors for invoices, walkthroughs, and you name it. It's a lot of work that goes into it. So I just wanted to acknowledge the folks at the utilities and all their hard work and responsiveness in both preparing for the audit and assisting the auditors with gathering all this information. So we have the audited financial statements in front of you. I don't want to go through it page by page, and I'm sure you don't want me to go through it page by page. But I do want to just note a few things. There were a few changes from the prior year. And if you have any specific questions, if you compare it from the prior year financial statements to the current year, you will notice a few adjustments. And if you have any questions about those, please let me know, and I'd be happy to explain the reasons behind them. In addition, there are a few reclassifications that were made on the income statement, on the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. That resulted mainly from the new chart of accounts. Just some minor reclassifications between operating revenues and expense and non-operating. Nothing too minor, but I just wanted to point that out. In addition, you will note a supplementary schedule which shows a summary income statement by department. We weren't able to prepare that for the prior year due to some of the challenges in that year and ensuring we got all the costs into the correct bucket. But with the new chart of accounts and cleaning up some of the accounts, we were able to prepare that for you for 2022. So you can see how each department fared for operating income. With that, I'm gonna see if you have any specific questions related to the audit or the audit results. I know Jeff and Bonnie are gonna do a more detailed report for you, but if I can answer any questions at all about the financial statements, footnotes, or results, please let me know.
I don't think we have any commissions from the commission. Thank you. Jim?
So just as a formality, it would make sense to approve the audit so we can send city clerk for the statutory deadline of July 1st.
You know, I'll just, for a minute, point out, they're meeting the legal requirement that it's out before July 1st. And, you know, I'll be honest, myself and Luke met with the auditors Friday afternoon for 3 hours and went through some of these things. And, you know, it'll take that long for us to go through them. But the big thing is, I think everybody should understand, was we didn't make money, which we didn't expect to make money, but we did a lot of repairs, a lot of maintenance, and we're upgrading stuff. So when we're upgrading the equipment and we're repairing equipment, we're not producing power, you know. So, you know, there's an offside to it, but we're in our this year is probably our final year of it, and then we'll be back operating we're in our first year not having to buy MP&L power at the same time as we produce power. So this it should be an upturn in 2023. So but the auditors, you know, have opinions and discussions, and they'll be at our next meeting to go through them. You know, this is a formality for legal compliance. But I wouldn't want to get ahead of them telling us what they think. But sure, they gave us a lot of room to improve. There's no doubt about it. But you know, nothing big, you know, that stands out to be dramatic. But just some minor miscues that hurt. They show up with legal compliance and stuff. But again, it's as we expected because of the changeover and all the repair work we're doing. So next year we won't be doing all this repair. The repairs will be done, It'll be kind of like a, then we'll be at the point where we just operate and take advantage of whether or not the power is cheaper by MISO or we produce our own, we don't have to buy from MP&L. We're going to have a deal negotiated, but so I guess the point is there's nothing wrong with the audit. The audit it's a compliant audit, and there's no, it's not out of the ordinary, but there are some things that that can be cleaned up and will be cleaned up and have been cleaned up, and you know, we're hiring somebody tonight, you know, to help do some of the coding for more accuracy, but it's as it is, and there's nothing, like I say, you know, let Bonnie and Jeff come and give the report next meeting, and that'd be best. That's, thank you, sorry. So I'll make a motion and we just accept it and place it on file, and then it gets forwarded on to the city. But the city's already got it as of last week, you know, so it's a formality.
Support. So a motion by Commissioner Garrity, support by Commissioner Bayless to approve the 2022 financial audit. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item will be item 6C. Review and approve the Hibbing Renewable Energy Center summer outage budget update and subsequent quotes. Want to touch on the budget update?
Thank you, Chair Hart. This is just based on the feedback from our last working session and the summary memo that Paul put together, just a little more clarity about items that are requested, the amount included in the original budget, and then the as presented now for approval of the actual purchase. Just wanted to call that to attention. Overall, we have a number of items for particular purchase that were included in the capital forecast and also the subsequent budget, and they are before you for approval. So are there any questions on the budget overall? All right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Peterson. We're going to move on to item 6C1, approved parts quote from Oman Industries for boiler 4A grate repairs in the amount of $53,736.08.
Thank you, Chair Hart. The request for you is for the parts, as is mentioned in the letter. The parts are split. It's about 50% of the over $53,000 for the actual grate components, and the other components of that part are for the seals. And so with this new bottom of the bed of boiler 4, the air will flow much more efficiently, and we will be able to be more controlled and efficient in how we operate boiler 4. So that is fine if you have any questions. If not, I'd recommend approval of the quote as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Support.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Andrea to approve the parts quote from Oman Industries in the amount of $53,736.08. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item will be item 6C2, award public bid 2023-19 turbine generator 3, major inspection to Oman Industries. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, members, public at home, as you're aware, we have 3 turbines in the power plant, and each turbine should be on a 5-year maintenance schedule. We completed the maintenance schedule of turbine 5 earlier this year, and so that was the first time since the 1990s that one had been redone. Turbine 3 has been redone more recently. It was 2015, but that is still beyond the 5-year cycle for this major overhaul. And particularly with our new mode of operating and the new arrangement where we produce our own power, it is important that we stick on these routine overhaul and maintenance schedules. We budgeted $1.2 million for the Turbine 3 overhaul, and as you recall from last time, the initial bid is just a portion of the overall budget. As we get the hood off of the turbine, we'll be able to see more of what needs to be done in there. So this is the initial, as best as we could. We received 2 bids, and one was quite a bit lower than what Omen Industries had quoted, but the number of hours that they put in their quote was far inferior. And it actually led us to do the analysis to determine that the hourly rate of Omen for the time that they're putting into this turbine is much lower than lowest bidder on this. So we just had expected that, under analysis of it, it wasn't quite a responsible bid to the fact of getting the work done. So because of that, in the higher rate per hour of the ST Cotter bid, we are recommending Omen Industries in the amount of $610,700 for the Turbine 3.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion that we hire Omen for $610,700 for the major inspection. And then the PUC staff will help keep the cost somehow under that.
Is there support?
I'll support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Garrity, support by Commissioner Babich to award the Turbine Generator 3 inspection to Omen Industries in an amount not to exceed $610,700. Any further discussion?
I just had one quick question. What was it, look, do you remember what we sent out the other turbine to get a whole bunch of stuff done?
Yeah.
That's basically the worst case scenario for this one also?
Correct.
What was that secondary cost for that one, other than the inspection? Just don't remember off the top of my head.
Top of my head, it was around $500,000 change order for that, based on what we saw on the turbine. And now, we have done the major on Turbine 3 more recently. The team at Omen, who has gone through this with us recently, and our staff are diligently trying to understand how do we get to know how the quality of what's in there sooner, so that we don't have that impacting our schedule. Because now under the new MISO arrangement, we're going to have to be ready to produce, and every month that we're down is bad. So Paul and Jim Omen have been talking about a couple of things of whether we can take the hood off a little earlier, really do the inspections of the rotors and the stages within that overall rotor, so that we can basically get the turbine scheduled for its high-speed balancing sooner. That was what held us up last time, is we had to send that rotor all the way to Houston and wanted it on Thanksgiving, and we didn't get it till Christmas Eve. But very much getting ahead of the curve. As Commissioner Garrity had mentioned, we've been going through a lot of things that haven't been done for many years, and as we kind of turn this corner, very happy to get more on this, routine schedule where these things are being done appropriately.
So we expect this to come in significantly under budget that we've budgeted for the whole project, for this turbine specifically.
You know me, I'm an optimist. I also don't want to sugarcoat what could happen. So I don't expect exceeding the $1.2 million at this point, but I would hope that.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, 6C3, award public bid 2023-20, power plant exterior painting. in the amount of $164,250 to TMI Coatings. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. If you recall, we spoke at the work session about the two bid process and how this is for the silver part of the wall of the power plant that is peeling. It's very visible. You can see it from Howard Street. It's turn into town. You know, it is not only an eyesore, it does have lead paint in that section of the power plant. So we put it out to bid, and in that bid, we had two quotes, two responses. Stack Brothers came in at $210,000 and change, and TMI Coatings came in at $164,000. And with this in mind, our staff is recommending the lower bid of TMI Coatings in the amount of $164,000 to complete this sandblasting and recoating of the power plant exterior yet this year.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I'll make a motion to award the bid to TMI Coatings in the amount of $164,250 for exterior power plant painting. Is there support?
Support.
I have a motion by Chair Harris, support by Commissioner Babich to award exterior painting to TMI Coatings in an amount not to exceed $164,250. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item will be item 6D, award public bid 2023-18 wood supply for the 2023-2024 heating season to Savannah Pallets. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. As we authorized, the Commission authorized in public bid 2023-18, the annual heating supply contract for the power plant went out to bid, and we had two bids for the wood supply, and that included a bid of Fletcher Trucking at $68 a ton, who was the high bid, and Savannah Pallet was the low bid at $30 a ton. And we are obviously going to recommend the lower bid in this case. And as Paul had presented at the work session, there were a couple of options that Savannah had also offered to look through, as if we included more of a sawdust mix, the cost could go down. And the other was if we wanted to do a fixed price based on some natural gas hedging thingamaroll. Obviously, I'm not a fan of either of those right now. I'm recommending we just go with the base blend of $30 a ton, which is what we've been receiving so far to date. So with that in mind, and also the ability to plan ahead together, Savannah has been a very good supplier, and I look forward to starting the second phase of our contracting life with them. Yeah, overall, very pleased with the relationship with Savannah and looking forward to the improved processes with all the upgrades we're looking at the plant this summer and the ability to take more wood. And I should also note that this is a lower cost than last year. Last year, the price per ton delivered was $35 a ton, so we decreased just about 20% pricing.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
I'll make a motion to approve Savannah Pallet.
Support. Got a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Andrea to approve Savannah Pallet for the wood supply for the 2023-2024 heating season. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6E, approve LNS Electrical to perform a 5-year maintenance and cable upgrades at the Greenhaven substation in the amount of $69,555.
You want to talk about just commissioners, before you, we have some just the recommended 5-year maintenance here for the substation at Greenhaven. And we did ask for 2 quotes, and we do recommend hiring LNS for this amount of $69,555. It is important that we, as we all know, outages that we had in the past, the preventative maintenance and routine inspections of our equipment is very important. And the tap changer inspection is so important right now, along with making sure the sampling and the switchgear maintenance is done so that the substation continues to be reliable.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
I should note too, this was in the capital forecast as well.
I'll make a motion to approve LNS Electric at $69,555.
Got support? Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Garrity, support by Commissioner Andrea, to approve the electrical upgrades to the Greenhaven substation, amount of $69,555. Any further discussion?
Real quick, Chair, just out of curiosity, what was the other quote for? Okay.
Okay. For those of you at home, the answer was 20% higher.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item will be item F, approved distribution cable purchase in the amount of $67,963 from Irby. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Before you, Commissioners, there's 3 quotes for cable, and the cable is absolutely instrumental and necessary in transporting electricity to your homes. And so we are recommending the lowest quote of the cable we quote out. So with that, I recommend Irby in the amount of $67,963.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I'll make a motion to approve the cable from Irby in the amount of $67,963.50.
Support.
Motion by Chair Hart, support by Commissioner Bayless. Approve the quote to Irby in the amount of $67,963.50. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We'll move on to item number 6F, or 6G, I'm sorry. Approve the 2023 vehicle leases from NCL Government Capital Leasing. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. In the packet, there are 2 lease quotes for commission approval, and I had one of them we had much less discussion on. It was more in the nature of lease versus purchase. In one of them, I think we had a lot of discussion and some questions about electric vehicles and how important it is that the public utilities have an electric vehicle now or in the future. And so, I'm really wishing, if the commission wants to table one or both of these, leases, we certainly can. But I did ask Mr. Caruth from Ford of Hibbing to come to the meeting too and just talk a little bit about the electric vehicles that are being dealt through Ford of Hibbing and kind of how one of these leases is with a procurement of a vehicle that has been on Tim's lot for quite a while. So, so that's how I'd like to introduce this section. And one of the vehicles that is proposed to be considered for adding to the fleet is a 2021 Mustang, which is called a Mustang, but it, as you'll see, it's hardly a sports car. And it's can I call it a marketing ploy from Ford? Oh, Ron is if you could step up to the podium, Mr. Caruth.
I would say it was a great marketing ploy by Ford when they first brought it out to tie the Mach-E to the Mustang name. Most of the time now, most of the entities that are purchasing these and doing it, nobody comes in and asks for the Mustang Mach-E. They're asking for the Mach-E because it's progressed down. About the only thing it shares in common with the Mustang anymore is the beginning of the name and the pony on the front of the grill. Other than that, it's an electric sport utility vehicle. Not a sports car, just a sport utility vehicle, all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive, depending on how you want it. But I would say that was a great marketing ploy by Ford at the very beginning to generate interest by calling it the Mustang to get it out there. So people had a little bit of, wow.
You're a ratepayer of Hibbing Public Utilities.
Pardon me?
You're a ratepayer of Hibbing Public, right? At your shop, I mean, you're one of our
Yes.
larger customers.
Yep.
Do you think we should be spending our money on an electric vehicle?
I do, especially for how you're using some of your vehicles. You know, running around town, that's what the electrical vehicles are going to specialize in, the short trips. You don't have idle time that you may have with a lot of your gas vehicles that you're using when they're sitting out there. I think I looked at today when I pulled it in, you're talking a range of it right now of about, roughly after a full charge, of about 270 miles to 300 miles. This one that you're looking at happens to have the extended range battery on it, which gives it a range close to 300 miles. Now, you know, how you drive it and some of your weather conditions are going to affect that a little bit. So they're coming. It's already mandated for the most part that it's coming unless something changes. I forget the exact year that the state of Minnesota has mandated, you know, the change. I believe it was like 2030, if I remember correctly, that they want to have everything going to electric vehicles as much as possible. I know California, that's what they're looking at right now. And it's going throughout the country. So at some point, for you guys, it makes sense. We have the state contract on Mach-E's for the state of Minnesota. We've sold many right now to different entities all over the state, utility companies, a lot of 2 or 3 police departments use them. One place in particular for meters, for meter reading and meter enforcement. A couple of them for chief's cars. So it makes sense, especially for a utility company coming out there. It's looking at it roughly on this, you save approximately $3,700 in fuel costs just with the electrical vehicle. So, not here to sell you. I'm just, if you have questions, that's why I'm here.
Chair. When you said 3,700, what's that time frame over?
That's, oh, excuse me. That was $3,750 in fuel costs over 5 years.
Okay.
How's the maintenance comparing to a regular gas engine on a, I mean, do you bring it in for checks on electronics and things on a regular basis and actuators? Like what's the service schedule on something like that?
Well, you basically have, you know, your brakes and stuff that you're having to do, which, you know, you're in town driving and stuff like that. Everybody knows the more stop and goes you use with it, the more, you know, the more frequency you're going to have with that. Basically, you know, the warranty coverage on it, your batteries are covered for, I believe, 8 years and 100,000 miles on the batteries themselves. You may have some, as Ford comes out with some reprogramming to increase the efficiency in some situations. Those have been some of the big things. They'll have those on occasion to hopefully get more mileage out of a particular charge. And those are really, you know, your 2 biggest things are, of course, the batteries on those and the brakes, which you're using the most of. You have your electronics and everything in there, but don't see an overabundance of that at this point.
So there's no oil changes, right?
No oil changes.
Okay.
No oil changes.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I want to be honest right up front. You know, we've been through the last couple of years of a rebuilding of the utility in Hibbing. We're still not making money. Saving $3,000 when we're leasing a vehicle for $14,800, that's something I just think is unacceptable. I think that a signature hood ornament for Hibbing is more, instead of a horse, should be a little squirrel. I just think it's too soon for the PUC until it gets its major components brought up to date to be experimenting into an electric vehicle. So I would discourage going forward with this, and I wish there was other kinds of electric vehicles that we could be talking about, you know, rather than a Mustang. I think it'd be more appropriate that it be a vehicle that could be used in other departments that could store equipment, carry equipment, move people around. And I just think this is more of a parade vehicle than anything. And I'm sorry, I think if we don't buy this one, we look, there's other vehicles out there that we can potentially buy that would save us money. But maybe at that time, everybody would be able to say, you know, you were wrong when you said that. Well, I guess I'm willing to risk that. I think it's not something we should be showing to the public that, you know, we've got a fancy sports car, in spite of what you say. And I'm not denigrating anything you've said, I realize, but it looks like a Mustang. You know, a Mustang is what's considered a fancy car, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a vehicle that would help in all areas. So I'll be a no on this, and I would encourage everybody else. I don't think it's worth the hassle to get from the people that we're investing in a fancy car like this, while we're still having problems with the plant. So if it's a good idea today, it's a good idea 6 months from now, or a good idea 12 months from now. But for me, it's not a good idea today. Thank you.
Anything else?
If I, could I just ask Steph, Chair, do you mind if Ms. Dickinson just kind of gives an update on the fleet schedule, I think, Stephanie? Because this does fill a need in the schedule, and we will have to backfill it, and I just want to talk about that if we don't go forward with the electric vehicle.
Can I ask one question?
Oh.
Before he leaves? So I'm looking here, it says it's $93,000 for the Chevy 1-ton over 5 years.
Yeah, that's the second vehicle, but not from Ford of Hibbing. So yes, but yes, I can answer that. I don't think Mr. Caruth can though.
Oh, it's Chevy, I apologize.
Yeah, right. We tried, he didn't have any trucks for us, unfortunately, so we had to shop elsewhere.
Well, I guess my question then is, you know, $93,000 on a lease over 5 years, I mean, what would it cost to just buy?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I spoke with Commissioner Hart about this too, and when you lease a vehicle, you're always making a gamble, whether you lease it or purchase it, you're always making a gamble on what the value of that vehicle is after that lease term is done. And so and I had a conversation with Commissioner Andrea about this right before too, is that, when you buy a utility truck that, is $54,000 and then you put a $45,000 updo on the box, it's a expensive piece of equipment. And when I look at it from a financial perspective, the analysis that we did, just assuming apples to apples comparison of if you used that truck for 5 years and it was worthless at the end of 5 years versus if you lease it for 5 years and it's also worthless at the end of 5 years, that there's a net benefit of leasing of about $5,000. So, from a modeling perspective, it's kind of a break even, right? It's not enough to put your money on today that you're going to make $5,000 in 5 years on. So what is really efficient for management here is that by preserving the cash flow and not writing a check for $93,000 today, preserving that capital, we have that flexibility to manage the utility rather than manage a portfolio of vehicles. And we also know that as we have the newer value of equipment, we'll be certainly reducing our maintenance costs over time too. So that's kind of the rationale behind the lease versus purchase.
So I mean, if it was purchased, do you know what the purchase price?
Yeah, it's the same, 93,000. Yeah,
90,000.
yeah. So, and I can, and if we want to, discuss, this more, I'm certainly happy to here and in the future. But when I calculated the NPV, the net present value of leasing, it came out to 98,000. When I calculate the NPV of purchasing, it's 102,000. That's negative, that's cost. And the benefit of leasing is about $4,000. And now that's assuming for an analytical assumption that it's worthless at the end of 5 years. So really the decision today is based on how much that truck's going to be worth in 5 years. And for many reasons, for the capital preservation, I'd rather not write a check for $93,000 today for a truck, and look to use the funds elsewhere. And leasing is very easy to budget for. It's also a good way of ensuring that we're not putting a lot of capital into vehicles that we won't be using for the long term. So
essentially, it's a cash flow decision versus a
yes,
depreciation.
Yes, it's a cash flow decision.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't take a loan out to purchase the vehicle? When you talk about the cash flow?
A lease is effectively a loan too. There is just the paperwork. I mean, I think we would need to get an equipment certificate, attorneys involved, and it gets a little complicated when we do that. And then we still have the fact that we own it at the end. So if that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's up to the decision at the time about it. But generally speaking, a lease gets you the debt. By levelizing it over a series of monthly payments, and then at the end, you have a choice if you want to buy it out or let it go. And so in the case of an electric vehicle, I don't necessarily trust we don't know what they're going to be worth after 3 years. So I think it's a fair assumption to say it's worthless at the end of 3 years. A utility truck, our crews do run them hard, and we're used to driving a fully depreciated fleet. But I don't know if that's in the best interest of, the future ratepayers of the city, either. Our maintenance costs are through the roof. So these are some of the considerations that went into this recommendation today.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
this says that the primary use will be for out-of-town travel, for training, seminars, administrative staff, attending business throughout town, and for engineering services group to be when they do some field work. Well, you know, you can't, we don't do that much travel. If we have a pickup truck, others can get in to go solve a problem on site or somewhere in the city. That seems to be a much better way of spending our money than spending our money on a vehicle that's, you know, we save $3,000, but we lease it for $13,000 or $14,000. It just doesn't make sense to me. You know, we get a power outage, we need some supplies delivered someplace. There's not a lot of room in a Mustang to carry it with you and accomplish anything. So you'd be taking two vehicles anyway. I just think it's the wrong time. It's something for the future, but I don't think it's right now. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners and Chair Hart. I'll just touch base on a few additional items regarding the research that staff has done so far for the vehicle replacements for the truck and the car that might be helpful with decisions tonight. And then, of course, answer any questions. So regarding the EV, staff had done some research on different options as far as the EVs go, and regionally, the other utilities in the area are using a Chevy Bolt, which has almost the same aesthetics of the Ford Mustang. So I think Tim can confirm that. And ultimately, yes, the Mustang was a sports car, but it's now the premier EUV or electric utility vehicle. So the difference between the Bolt and the Mustang and why we chose the Mustang over the Bolt was because of the added, they call it a frunk, was one reason. So that is added space for storage for tools and equipment to be utilized by the staff if they are using it to attend to job sites for staking or meeting with customers, or the meter readers as well would be a good test case for us to implement an EUV at the utility as well with the amount of travel that they do just in town. I had taken some notes as well and wanted to share some of the benefits of cost savings for maintenance and operations of the vehicle as well. I think Tim did a good job summarizing most of that as well. So again, with less parts in the vehicle, there's no cost of oil, and then we generate our own electricity. So there is an expense to the ratepayers, but much different than purchasing fuel. So the other things that I think besides the storage space in the vehicle is also we do have regular travel where staff travels together in town and out of town for training or meetings. And for us to be able to have a utility vehicle that houses more than two people is ideal, and why we didn't specifically go with a truck that has exterior storage for tools and equipment. The EUV is bigger and better than the Bolt. The Chevy Bolt does not have the same interior space as the Mustang. Then a couple of the other key benefits why, again, the Mustang stood out over the Bolt was the max range for traveling distances, the charging speed, additional safety features that it had for as well. The meter readers are accessing multiple job sites a day, right? So a lot of things that they can incur and be able or have to navigate. And then also, a few other things just to note as well is this would be, when the commission is ready for it, the first try at implementing an electric vehicle, I should say, actually, into the fleet at Hibbing Public Utilities. And we do need to have a test period where we can see what that looks like and how we need to adapt to be able to accommodate that here at the utility. For us to be able to do that where we currently have a hole in the fleet, we had transitioned our existing shared vehicle into the meter readers due to decommissioning a vehicle that they were using a handful of months back. I forgot where I was going with that. So anyways, it's just I think it's a really good time right now, and especially with a 3-year lease. If an electric vehicle doesn't work for the fleet at Hibbing Public Utilities, then we would know that, but considering what's going on regionally, we're far behind. The other utilities in the area implemented them in the last 5 to 10 years. So we're we're at some point going to have to test the waters, and ultimately it is the commission's decision of when the timing is right. And we'd be happy to provide any additional information as far as that goes. As far as budgetary dollars, we had in the fleet replacement plan that we had presented a few months back as well, that was approved by the commission, we budgeted up to $50,000 for a vehicle. A utility truck to fill that gap would likely be much more than that. So the Mustang was less than the budgeted dollar amount that has already been approved. If we did not approve an electric vehicle tonight, we would likely round back next month with asking for acceptance of a different vehicle, just not to be powered by electricity. So other than that, there was, the rest of my notes I believe Tim had covered, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I just wanted to make sure that I gave some backup as well on the research that staff has done over the last couple months to, come to this point of recommending electric vehicle into the fleet. And I just want to thank Fort Hibbing as well. We've had a generous amount of time to test that vehicle out, and I would say a handful of us have enjoyed testing it out, and I would encourage any questions at this time.
So I would actually like to see some other options. I'm at first taken aback by the Mustang name, I think like most other people are, but I do think that it's worth looking into the electric vehicle option. I would like to see maybe I'll just make the motion to table that part of this to talk more about the electrical vehicle versus the need for that vehicle in general, get some other options and talk about it openly. I do think that there is a political weight that it might carry to be looking into EVs, especially when we're asking for $26 million with our state government. That might go a little bit if we're looking at progressing into the future with some of our decisions. So I don't know. I'm not sold on the Mustang itself, but I would like to know more about what we're going to have to replace that vehicle anyways, it sounds like, is what you're saying, is
Yes.
that vehicle is a need. Let's see what the other options are and go from there instead of just saying no to one and then coming up to the next one and voting in the next option. I'd like to see them side by side. So I'd make the motion to table that portion of it to the Mustang.
I'll support that.
Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Garrity to table leasing the Ford Mustang. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Still have the one-ton truck to deal with. And I guess we obviously need to replace that truck. The other one got smashed, and at the end of the day, this utility is going to keep it at least 10 years. I don't see why we would lease it. I think it's just a vehicle that should be purchased. So I think overall, over a 10-year, 12-year period, it's going to be the least costly way to own the vehicle, rather than trying to buy it out after a 5-year lease or something.
Mr. Chairman, is there insurance coverage on the damaged vehicle?
There is liability, there is insurance on the vehicle that was destroyed. I don't know how much we are going to get, though, back, right? That process is still going through with the League of Minnesota Cities. So
But it wasn't our fault?
it wasn't our fault. The driver of the other car was taken away to jail right after hitting it. So, I hope we get some money back.
And I guess that money can be used to offset the purchase price, and we have a one-ton vehicle. That makes a lot, I agree with you, that makes more sense to do it that way. That we're always going to use a one-ton pickup, so.
Yep.
So if that was your motion, I seconded it.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Chair Hart, support by Commissioner Garrity to purchase the 2024 one-ton Chevy with the utility box. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Next item will be Item 6H, approve trout companies in the amount of $167,890 for 3 test wells at the Cary Valley location. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. As we had discussed in a couple of the working sessions, the Cary Valley engineering is progressing, and what is really the next stage is to decide the capacity of the treatment regime at Cary Valley. And we are also doing our wellhead protection plan right now with Bar Engineering, looking at hydrology data throughout the whole city and our well footprint, and where the runoff comes from various activities and how protected our, wells are from infiltration of groundwater. And one thing because that has been a challenge in that study, as well as in sizing Cary Valley, is determining the right amount of capacity to prepare for at Cary Valley. Because there has been so little well drilling activity up there, we don't have good data in the hydrology models to say with 90% certainty we can get 2,400 gallons a minute creating of this well field in the next 10 years. So this is a necessary due diligence as we look at investing a significant amount into that water treatment plant, and making sure that the ratepayers in the state of Minnesota's dollars go far in making sure that we have adequate treatment and cost-effective supply for the future. Of course, I mean, I look at it as we have a south well field that's going to have an end date. We can't go west, we can't go north, we have to go east. I think the question is how fast can the east well field come online and take over from the south well field? And so these are generational decisions. This is something that, you know, our ratepayers over the next 50 years will benefit from, but it has an immediate application for sizing the water treatment plant at Cary Valley right now. And if you look at it, there are a couple different methods of drilling these sample wells, and I had asked Bolton and Mink to put this together so that we knew the difference between the different types. The cheapest is the mud rotary drilling, and that's where you just, you know, drill a hole and get some samples out of it. It's affordable, but it's also the data is very compromised because it's full of mud. No, I mean, it's just a less precise and scientific way. Rotary drilling, which is what one of the bidders put in at, is a better form, but you still are disturbing the ultimate geological data as the casing gets shoved down there. The sonic drilling is the best, and that's what Trout has bid on. I think it's worth noting that we asked a couple of well drillers to put in estimates. None of them could meet the time considerations for our project except Trout. We did, just out of due diligence, include the second quote from the, I guess, the secondary preferred drilling method, just as an example of what that other one cost. But the only qualified quote was from Trout Well Company, and that's what I'm recommending the commission award tonight in the amount of $167,890. And we would hope to mobilize by the middle of July to start drilling these wells.
Chair, if I could, I would concur with Mr. Peterson's analysis. The other quote that you saw in the paperwork specifically cannot meet the time frame that was set in the specs to be completed within 45 days of the award. And they were candid in saying, we can't start till after Labor Day, so they can't meet the criteria that Bolton and Mink set in the specs. So it's not a qualified bid quote for this particular job. They can't meet the specifications as set forth by the utility.
Thank you. Is there access to these areas, Mr. Peterson, or is that got to be done also?
There is access. We've worked on siting a couple, 3 of the wells already with the city of Hibbing, and we're still finalizing the actual location of the well. And as a follow-up, I can share those proposed locations. Because what the goal is to, well, I mean, all of these expensive dollars are guesses, right, on what the ground looks like underneath, 500 feet below the surface. And what the problem that we have is just that whole area from basically 169 to Highway 5 is like one big black hole of data in the hydrology model. I know, some of you maybe live in that area and have abundant water. The problem is a lot of that data isn't in the hydrology model, and because we haven't done proper core sampling. And this gets some of that into the state of Minnesota's database too for future benefits. We'll also have better data to more precisely target our next well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Mr.
can I ask Luke, what's the significance of 3 wells compared to 2?
It's just because 3 is bigger than 2. 3 is bigger than 2, and you could go on to an infinity and improve the accuracy and the probability of your analysis results in predicting the results. The number 3 was chosen as the best input into the hydrology model, so that we get it covers enough of the area so that we'll get a 95% certain approximation on our proposed well site and size. If you take away one data point, you get to the 50% certainty. So with each data point, you are at least doubling the certainty of results. So you're improving the probability of finding good water.
So why don't we do 4?
We could do 4, and the incremental costs will go down. I thought, the hydrologists, and I'm taking this as a recommendation from our hydrologist, who's not Bolton and Mank, it's Bar Engineering, Katrina Marini, and Don Lemon, who was here and presented on the wellhead protection plan. That was the right amount to round out the imperfections data that they have.
Can I ask one last question, please? Does the engineering company get a cut of on this?
No, this is directly with trout wells. So there is no cut that goes to Bolton and Mink.
So there's no additional fee?
There is no additional fee. That's correct.
I'd be happy with 2, but that's, I guess you got to have confidence in your engineering crew.
I mean, we're making a $15 million decision on the water treatment plant. I think we're going to be one darn sure that we got the right amount of scope in there. And it isn't just for this water treatment plant that will last 40 years. It's for the future of the well field. So we're going from basically a geographic, at least in the hydrology model, black hole to having some very good data, and 3 is the right amount, at least upon recommendation of our hydrology consultant.
Thank you. What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make the motion to approve it for trout.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Andrea to approve test drills out at Cary Valley to trout companies in the amount of $167,890. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next, we move to policy and governance. Item 7A, approve hiring of Whitney Monroe as accounting coordinator. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. As Commissioner Garrity had mentioned, after a long conversation with the auditors, one thing that became apparent is the need for us to have a focus on a bookkeeper position within the utility. Baker Tilly has been very instrumental in getting us through a period of restructuring the chart of accounts, and now having kind of boots on the ground bookkeeper is very important. And now Whitney has started as a temporary employee just after the audit started, and has been going very well. And based on my ability to, management's ability to recruit from within the organization, I would like to bring on Whitney full-time to fill the role of accounting coordinator, whose job description is in here. This role will provide instrumental support to our month-end processes that we will be kicking off with the June month-end review, as well as performing day-to-day accounts payable and coding of all invoices coming in, and monthly bank reconciliations and financial reporting, which will eventually shed from Baker Tilly over the long run to doing in-house. So we aren't going to ditch Baker Tilly just yet, or at least I'm not recommending it, but over time, we would do more of that in-house, and eventually hire a full-time controller. But as we've seen, it's been hard to find that. So what we can compromise is our day-to-day accounting.
Mr. Chair? Yep. I will make a motion to hire this lady, but I'd also like to point out that as part of it, this is in response to the audit. There's a lot of internal things that need to be improved on, and this lady is the start to getting it straightened out. And there's just a lot of things that, I mean, coding of invoices sounds like a very simple subject, but by gosh, our managers are going to learn. They're going to do the coding, and they're going to do it up front, and they're going to do it right, and because there's just incredible amount of adjustments that need to be made to make sense with our system, because we're a code generator, and so it's the right move to start to get things forward, and I think she's the one at this point that's our best option to start. So we'll eliminate a lot of the audit problems that were scoped out by the auditors. And so sorry for the editorial comment, but the motion is to hire her. That's
Thank you, Mr. Garrity. Support? Support. Got a motion by Commissioner Garrity, support by Commissioner Babich, to hire Whitney Monroe for the accounting coordinator position. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item 7B, recommendation of hiring of design engineering technician, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Hart. We have two positions open in our engineering department for design engineering technicians, and we've had one internal applicant and one external applicant to recommend in two separate motions. I'd like to recommend Paul Petrich, who's currently on the heat crew, who has expressed interest and interviewed with the team and scored incredibly high in his aptitude and attitude and ability to perform the job that we have in the design engineering technician, and he will join Sue in that position, as well as hopefully the third candidate will come on in the next agenda item. And we are wanting to move Paul pending conversations with the existing heat crew leader to be effective July 10th. And as a note too, since this does open up another position that he's currently filling, that with acceptance of this recommendation, that we're also approving to post internally and externally for the heat crew beginning on July 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make the motion to approve the hire, or the position for Paul Petrich.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Andrea, to approve the hiring of Paul Petrich as design engineering technician effective July 10th, 2023. Any further discussion?
Can I just include, Andy, the posting of the job, or should we do that separately?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate if you
Yep.
make that.
We'll include the remaining language.
Yep, it should have been added in. Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to item 7C. The recommendation for hiring of design engineering technician. Sir, external?
Yep, thank you, Chair Hart. As I mentioned, 2 positions are available. One was filled with an internal applicant. The second position, I recommend hiring Samantha Adams, who has a lot of experience in implementing GIS and working with electrical design to fill and join the 3rd position in this engineering department. And with the hire of Samantha, we will have a full contingent in our engineering department, which is highly critical for us to move forward to make progress on the big projects we have going on. Utilities.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Babich to approve the hiring of Samantha Adams for the design engineering technician. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item we have is there any old or new business that needs to be brought before the commission? Perfect. Is there a motion to adjourn? Support?
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Babich, support by Commissioner Garrity to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody.